Good morning. We're live here on Veterans Day. We're gonna have a really cool cat named Anthony. It's really cool veterans nonprofit. So we're gonna talk to him about a lot of cool stuff today. He's a SonarSpace user and has a really incredible background. We wanted to highlight. Oh yeah, we got him on here right now. Anthony, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
So thank you for coming on, Anthony. So
Yes.
today's Veterans Day, and we wanted to do an educational piece today on on the veterans in general and sort of an overlooked portion of our population. And so I have here Anthony Robinson, who's an amazing guy. He's kind of a jack of all trades. You can see there's a actual real plane in the background because he actually fixes planes and flies planes. And I actually had the opportunity to fly in one of his planes when I was visiting down there. He's based in Houston. And this was my first time in a little plane. And it's this like little plane. There's only 4 seats and it's kind of an antique of sorts. It's not what I imagined. It's not a jet plane, it's a propeller plane, but it was an amazing experience. He made my phone float. And then when we went down and we dove and we got like 2 or 3 G's on the body, it was a mind warping experience. Honestly, I really appreciated that. So Anthony has an incredible background. He's a successful family man, operates his own business based in Houston, and he also comes from a special forces background. And I wanted to talk about that because I, for one, had never heard of the PJs, the parajumpers. And so, Anthony, if you could introduce yourself to everybody here at SonarSpace and tell us a little bit like your background and maybe even start at the beginning, like growing up and military background that you had before that, and then tell us about the PJs and what's that all about. Oh, it kicked him out. Oh, hang on, everybody. It kicked him out. Here, let's invite him back in. Okay, Anthony, I invited you back in. You're in now?
I'm here.
Yeah, so we can't keep you out. Here you are again. So I don't know if you heard the last thing. I was just kind of introducing you, and I wanted you to tell everybody about your background, like not just the PJs, but where you came from, why you got into the PJs, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. So I'm Anthony Robinson. I grew up in North Texas, just McKinney, Van Alstyne area. Graduated from Van Alstyne High School with like 95 other dudes and ladies. um, I left about 2 weeks after graduating high school and joined the Air Force under an intelligence contract. And I think me and the Air Force both at the same time realized that I had no business in that line of work. So I was fortunate enough after a couple of years of struggling with that to get picked up to go into the pararescue career field. A lot of people don't know really anything about pararescue or the PJs as called. So
So there's special
basically,
forces, right? When I think of special forces, I guess I think of like the Navy SEALs.
yeah. So special forces is kind of a term that the Army has really taken for their special operations capability for special forces soldiers. The 18 line of soldier, if you will. So the general military adopted special operations. So that's kind of like the overarching term for all special operations, special forces in all the different military. So yeah, pararescue is a special operations career field in the United States Air Force, along with combat control and TAC-P. There's special reconnaissance, some of those other jobs. But as a PJ, obviously, pararescue is like the tippy top of that level. Like the fastest way to be a combat controller, and really the hardest part of being a combat controller is quitting pararescue and doc, as most people know. Getting reclassed into that job. Anyway, what a PJ does is it's your responsibility, and you are the only asset in the entire DoD that is trained specifically and only to personnel recovery. So it was our job, anytime anybody was isolated, injured, shot down, captured, it was our job to go in and get that person through whatever means was required. So whether that's halo or hey-ho parachuting, static line parachuting, into the water, scuba diving, on a ship, whatever that was, that's what we trained to do. Although a large portion of what we did was medevac out of helicopters in Afghanistan.
So you guys are the superheroes, basically, of the special forces. Come in and rescue everybody, including the special forces guys themselves when they get stuck or they get injured.
Yeah,
Bring it back.
it comes across that way. Yeah, we're definitely one piece of that puzzle, and I think that we like to think that it gives everybody a little bit of extra effort, knowing that no matter what, somebody's going to come get them, bring them home. So that is really the bread and butter of what pararescue does, and because of that capability, we integrate with SEAL teams, ODA teams, Rangers to help them complete their taskings.
Wow, that's incredible. So like, what led you to decide to join the PJs? Is there people in your family who had military experience, or was this something you did on your own?
Yeah, my granddad was in the Air Force during Vietnam, and my older brother joined the Navy, and it was we had talked about both of us joining the Navy and going through SEAL training. And after he was in the Navy about 6 months, he was like, if you join the Navy, I'm going to kick your ass, because he wasn't having such a good time. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to do that. And so I decided to join the Air Force, and my granddad kind of pulled me to the side, and he's like, hey, there's this special group in the Air Force that is super classified, and you should try it. And I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, granddad, and I went off and did my stuff. And then I got lucky enough to get stationed at a pararescue unit in South Georgia. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what my granddad was talking about, like maybe a little light on the super secret stuff, but definitely an elite group of guys that are doing a really cool mission. And so I was like, at a point in my life where I knew this is what I needed to do. Like, I felt called to it. But I kind of had a sedentary lifestyle and not really in the best shape of my life at that point. And so I had a long road to go to get healthy and get in shape, and had some really good friends along with me to help me achieve that goal. So yeah, it took 2 years of training, pretty much nonstop, in order to achieve the goal of being a PJ from day one of walking in the door until graduating. It was 2 years to the month. So,
and I remember you told me earlier when we briefly talked about this, how challenging it is to complete the program. Didn't you say that there was only, of so many people who started, there was very few who actually could get through the whole thing?
Yeah, just the 12-week indoctrination course. All that's kind of changed right now, but it's roughly the same. Just the 12-week indoctrination course, we started with 120, and 20 of those guys graduated 12 weeks later. And that just gives you entry into the rest of the pipeline. So I would say of those 20, maybe 10 or 12 of them actually became PJs. Wow. At the end of the road. So yeah, it's very physically demanding. They had some sports scientists come in and do a study on the course, and they figured that we burned 7,000 to 9,000 calories per day.
Whoa, that's a lot. That's more than an athlete.
Yeah, it was it was a lot. And so you realize, like, you know, you've been looking forward to meeting these graduation physical standards, and you have no idea that you're going to have to complete those standards injured, because it's almost impossible to get through that level of strenuous activity,
Yeah,
I guess,
physical
without being
duress.
injured. Yeah. So
So yeah, before we move on, I know it all sounds like classified and stuff, and I'm sure you can't talk about everything, but is there maybe an experience you can share about your time you were touring in the PJs that would kind of illuminate us, the audience, as to like what it's like, what it was like?
yeah, you know, I'll say that in the beginning, everything that you touch is super exciting. You're everything's new, and you know you really equate a lot of that stuff to, you know, video games or movies that you'd seen. Like, oh my God, I get to do this. Then you're strapped in with 300 pounds of gear on you, strapped into an airplane at night, climbing, knowing, okay, when this thing, we get up to, you know, 20,000 feet, me and 5 of my best friends are going to jump out into the darkness, you know, and you're sitting there and like everything hurts, all these straps and stuff, they're all, you know, tugging at you and digging in, and your body armor's on underneath all that stuff. So it's like jabbing you, and you're like, this looks so much cooler than it really is. You know, you just can't wait to get out of the airplane. So like all that weight is hanging on a harness instead of hanging off of you. So that's like, it's way cooler looking than actually being there. But falling out into the darkness with 5 of your buddies and flying to a GPS coordinate, and all of you landing silently in the middle of the night, you know, that's pretty cool. Definitely on the highlight reel.
Yeah, that's got to be an unforgettable experience. So you drop out of the plane with all this 300 pounds on your back, and you can't see anything, and you just, it's like all like timing, and you look at your gauges, and you know when to open your parachute.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody does their job to the best of their ability, and everything works out. You know, it's part of being a team. It's not, none of us wanted to be the hero. None of us consider ourselves heroes. I have some teammates that I would argue that point for them, definitely. But we wanted to do our job and be the very best at what we did, and that's what, you know, really set those guys apart from some of the, you know, we'll call them normal military folks. Nothing against them by any means. It's just, you know, on the PJ teams and on some of the other special operations teams, nobody's standing over your shoulder to make you do better. It's on you. You know, you need to practice the basics, you need to drill the basics, and you need to be the best at simple stuff. And it's stuff out there anybody can do. People just don't.
Yeah, and that's, well, for us outside of all this, we all feel that you are heroes, definitely, and all of our veterans are heroes, and you guys especially, who are just in these just incredibly trying situations, trying to operate within like extremely restricted parameters under a lot of stress, and you know, and trying to do the right thing, you know, whatever it is, whatever the situation calls for. You guys are absolutely heroes, and I would definitely disagree with anyone who claimed they weren't. But I think that's the mark of a true hero is the humility of letting the actions, you know, letting their actions speak for themselves, and not the talk. So that's a great way, I think, for us to segue into today. So today's Veterans Day. We're here to remember and honor all y'all heroes who've done incredible things, large and small, across the board to support the country and uphold our freedoms, and to do a lot of things that most people are just not willing to do, much less, capable of doing. So let's talk about Veterans Day. Like, Anthony, like what does Veterans Day mean to you? Like, what things do you think about? What comes up today? What would you like to share with everybody about, your personal perspective on the meaning of today?
Yeah, Veterans Day is kind of it's a happy day, for sure, because it's not Memorial Day. Memorial Day, we're remembering the people that gave everything for us, and I equate Veterans Day to it's the people that are still here that didn't give the ultimate sacrifice, that still sacrificed a lot.
Mm.
I mean, there's just if you don't even deploy, you've still sacrificed your health in some way. I mean, you've put yourself on the line, living in or working in conditions that you didn't have to do. You volunteered for that. But you're missing maybe your kid's first steps. You're missing birthdays. You're missing anniversaries. You go off to war and your parents get older. You miss that. There's so many things that people sacrifice in order for our nation to have the freedoms that we have, that there's people who have had to give their lives for that. There's an awful lot of people who have given quite a bit underneath that bar. They wrote the check. They just, we were lucky we didn't have to cash that one.
Yeah.
So Veterans Day is important to me. I was at an event with kind of a mountain of a man, DJ Shipley, on Monday, and he said, less than 1% of the population of the United States are active or veterans. And if at that event there was 200 people there, so 0.5% of 200 people, that's one person. If something were to go wrong at that event and one person stood up to do something about it, that's pretty small quantity of people,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think veterans, because they have written that check, I think they're special, and I think having a day to honor that is important.
Yeah. And on this day where we're honoring them, like, I'd like to bring light to what veterans what veterans experience after their service, and then what they're dealing with, and how can we support them and being their best selves. So I'd like to start out that with the question of actually your experience. So tell us, like, after the PJs, what did you do? How did you transition back into regular life, and what were some of the challenges that you faced? I know you have a family, and you went back to them, but, like, tell me about that. What was that process like?
Yeah, man. So I'll start off, life on the PJ team was amazing for a dude like me. We trained all the time. We got to do really awesome trips, ice climbing and skiing, riding snowmobiles, jump trips out of San Diego. It was awesome. But in order to do all that, you have to leave, right? So, I was gone 9 months a year, basically, between deployment and training and all that kind of stuff. And then went to Afghanistan, and I was there about 5 months, and decided kind of during that time that I was going to get out. I had a good opportunity to take over my wife's family's pool company in Houston. And it was just, the war was kind of drying up and everybody's now looking for the next thing to do. And it was just a good time for me. So I went from, being on team in Afghanistan to just a few short weeks later being completely out of the military, no team, living here in Houston, essentially me and my wife and my kids, and that's it. We didn't really know anybody else in town.
That's a big shift really quick.
Yeah, and you go from being a special operations guy, like, flying in on a helicopter and plucking people out of strange situations, and then I'm like, go from that to a couple weeks later I'm working on swimming pools, and people like looking down their nose at me, it's like that was pretty difficult culture shock for sure. Definitely hit to my ego at the time. Yeah, that was hard. And you wonder what your buddies are doing. What are they doing today? I'm sitting there like barely using my brain cells at all. And all that headspace is devoted to like, well, what are they doing? Was this the right decision? Should I have gotten out? Should I have stayed in? Is this going to work?
Have you kept in contact with some of your old team?
Yeah, man, you can't, those guys become family. You do everything together for, really years as you train to go overseas. And then literally every waking moment you are right there with these guys. So, it's, you're really brothers, So yeah, I still talk to a lot of those guys. I still, we don't talk every month, but we stay in touch and get together every once in a while, which is nice.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's such an intense shift to be so highly skilled and highly trained in this very specific working environment, and then to go out and, like you said, it sounds like a great opportunity you had to transition and have an entrepreneurial opportunity. But wow, what a different daily life you go into. And so I imagine that is not uncommon, that there's this huge transition where all of a sudden all these things that you learn to do and we're doing every day are not necessarily applying to your life and the things you're expected to do, not just the skill sets, but the relationships, the type of people you interact with and the type of daily experience you have at work and at home. And so I'd like to talk about that like a little bit. Like, I know that in the veterans community, there's significant challenges in reintegrating to society and to civilian life. And a lot of those are mental challenges in general, like a mental shift of focus of your mood and your perspectives. And you're still the same person, you're still the same guy, maybe the same values, but all of a sudden the expectations are way different around you for how you talk to people and what you need to do to earn income and what you can do for yourself. So let me back up. When you were in the PJs, did you guys do any personal care? Did you do any self-care, any kind of like restorative therapies of any kind to fix the systems, whether it's like beyond just the training?
Man, so I was on the teams in kind of a really dynamic time frame for that whole person concept. That mentality was just kind of piercing the membrane to get into the team. So they went from like shut up and do your job until you're too broken, and then leave to like, okay, we need to take care of these guys. And they started, they'd have a chaplain and a therapist and sports medicine. They started having all these specialized teams come in to the units and be there every day, where if you're struggling, you can go knock on the door and say, hey, I'm having weird thoughts, or I'm not sleeping, or I'm, having bad dreams, or whatever the case is. And they can help kind of work you through that. Prior to that, it was like, you didn't really want to say anything, because your ability to train and deploy, and a lot of your pay at the end of the month was special duty pay, that if you weren't capable of doing those special duties, you didn't get that pay. So that, that could be half of your paycheck that goes away if you raise your hand and say, hey, I'm not sleeping very good. I'm thinking some weird stuff, or
Yeah. So there's it's now that's really cool to hear that the taboo is kind of being lifted, that they're recognizing in the military that, hey, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of these guys on a mental, physical, and emotional level, and that will go a long way. So that's great to hear that. But at the same time, I totally get what you're saying. Like it's like that also. There's different parallels in the civilian world too, where the act of being vulnerable has financial obstacles to it. You don't want to admit you have some, some obstacles that you need to work on, because it could, it often could put you at a disadvantage where you miss an opportunity, or you're overlooked for something, or your pay is docked, or whatever. So that's a big challenge actually to overcome. I mean, even just, working at a company, if you say, hey, I need some help, I'm sick, I need some therapy or whatever, that could lead to, some companies would just let you go. And I definitely do things differently at Sauna Space. We emphasize really centrally personal care and personal development in what we do, but definitely there's a challenge there, and I would say it's particularly significant in the veterans community is the taboo against, or the taboo of saying, I have something I want to work on here. Maybe not I need help, or whatever, but like, I have an issue here that I want to work on, and being able to reach out and be vulnerable and reach out for help and find support, and what you need. So I wanted to ask you about that. Like, I know I'm going to ask you in a little bit about your experience with Sauna Space, because I know you tried it recently. But before that, like, besides that, and maybe before that, or maybe subsequent to that, what are the things that you've been doing or considered doing to relax the mind and relax the body, and kind of do some personal care now that you've been out of the military for a while, and you are I assume taking some time to do this kind of stuff. So like, what kind of things have you been trying?
Yeah, my experience with the self-care, mental health aspect of life is very recent. For most of my life, it was like, put it in the box, man. Put it in the box under the rug. Leave it alone. Don't go in there.
Yeah, but it doesn't go away that way.
No, man, it becomes a bit of a tripping hazard, And
Yeah.
so no, I mean, before that, like, when I first got out, I'm not never really drank a lot, but I was like drinking a couple beers every day, and sitting there with my wife, and she's like, what are you, you're kind of drinking every day, and I was like, yeah. And I was just about to say, well, I only, it helps me get to sleep. And then right when I was just about to say that, she's like, as long as you're not like having to do that to get to sleep, I guess it's okay. Uh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, you know, so like,
So you were dealing with some insomnia, some
definitely. Yeah.
sleep quality issues.
Yeah. I mean, you lay down and go to sleep and your mind is just going 1,000 miles an hour, you know,
Yeah.
which is a struggle to try to contain that. But you know, I tried working through the VA program, which was like a mental health struggle in itself. But I mean, I had to call my state representative on the phone in order to get a mental health appointment with the VA. Like it was took that long.
Wow.
It
Wow,
was
that's disturbing.
2 months of calling and setting appointments, and the appointments get canceled and this and that, you know, and it's like so much for somebody to finally be like, okay, I gotta get some help. You know, I don't understand. I want to understand. I don't understand. So I need to talk to somebody who can help me understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big step. And then,
Huge step.
you know, to say, okay, I want help, and then have to literally go beat somebody's door down to get the help. Asking is the biggest hurdle that anybody should ever have to make, you know, especially somebody who has already sacrificed. Not talking about myself, but you know, others that have, you know, given a lot, been through a lot more than me, and they finally said, okay, I'm going to get help, and then it's like a ghost town, like nobody's there to help. All these people that were like, oh, just call, just pick up the phone, and then all of a sudden you're just standing there by yourself. So yeah, I mean, it was difficult. I got that handled. I worked with the VA a little bit. Man, to be honest with you, and this is just my experience. I don't want to say that this is the way the whole system works, or that other people, I'm sure, have had different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, it was like, you know, my very first appointment down to VA, I walk in and I had, you know, some pretty serious pain in my back. And I walk in there and the guy just starts writing a prescription. And I'm like, you know, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm going to write you a prescription for Percocet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I just got out of the Air Force. I was 29. And I'm like, dude, then what? And he's like, well, it should make the, you know, help with the pain. And yeah, but what after that? And he's like, no, this is it. I was like, I'm not taking Percocet, man. I'm 29 years old. And he's like, okay, then don't, you know? And then with the mental health stuff, it's like, I literally talked to a lady on the phone and they sent me SSRIs in the mail.
Wow.
You know?
So those are serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So that's like
Yeah.
the standard antidepressant pharmaceutical drug. Right?
Yeah. Here, just take these for the rest of your life and hopefully it's a short one, you know? And it, you know, it's like, what, and we'll hopefully we can talk about this shortly with the nonprofit, but and that the government is not out there helping people, definitely not helping veterans. You know, they do have programs and they do have this and they do have that, but it's the nonprofits out there that are really taking care of veterans. It's, you know, there's Warrior Health Foundation, there's Heroic Hearts, there's you know, Folds of Honor, there's all these different groups and that are out there like really helping people, and they're doing it on such a smaller budget than what the federal government budgets for, and they're making a difference, you know, and that's where we should be putting our emphasis, is supporting those organizations like that are making a difference.
You're right. They have the passion, and with the passion comes an economy of action where you don't need a lot of money necessarily to get amazing, you know, significant outcomes.
Yeah.
The government is, more following the industry, the medical industry's standard of care, which is diagnose and treat with pharmaceutical drugs of one kind or another. And there was a guy, we were at a conference, and this guy, Dr. Artis, I think put this really beautifully. He said, when you're sick, or when you have a problem, or something you're dealing with, you're not suffering from a deficiency in SSRIs. It's not like you're missing that, and that's what you need. And that's, I think, a funny way of describing the whole, how ineffectual and how wrong that approach is. Like, here in the natural wellness world, here at Sauna Space, and those of us in natural and alternative health, we understand that really all these problems we have are just disharmonies in the body. And it's because we have poisons in our bodies that are not us. And the more, to be our best selves and to be in alignment with ourselves, and that means also mentally, emotionally, physically, we need to get these things that are not us out of ourselves in terms of actual physical poisons, and then to address our relationship to ourselves and our experiences that we've had. You can look into the past and look at any piece, any experience, anything that happened, and say, oh, that sucks, I suffered so much from that. Or you can look at it and see it as a teaching moment, and that's where the trauma becomes wisdom. And what we know nowadays, though, in terms of modern physiology, is that we actually hold mental and emotional trauma in our bodies. It's in our fascia. So in the tissue, in between the tissues, all throughout the body, there's like basically little closets where these things called neuropeptides can harbor and retain memory of traumas. And this can be even not just physical traumas. This is more than anything, this is emotional traumas. And so throughout life, if we have a stressful moment where we decided to get into our lizard brain and protect ourselves and get into survival mode in one way or another, we tend to hold on to that trauma. And then, throughout the years, it builds up to where some of the poisons, or maybe the things and the obstacles in our body that don't belong, are also these mental, physical, and emotional traumas that are held in our autonomic nervous system, are literally stored as neuropeptides in our tissues. And so the issue is in the tissues, and taking a drug to suppress one or two symptoms doesn't address that root cause at all. And so this is it's such an important aspect of health, that it's also you mentioned the nonprofits, also in alternative health, we're all more or less on a cash basis here. I think, there's some FSAs and HSAs that you can get a prescription from a doctor for a sauna, and your insurance company might pay for some of it. But in all of what we're doing here, it's like what you're doing in your nonprofit and these other nonprofits, is we have to prove that our outcomes are worth the value of the money you're paying. And they totally are. If we can make the shift and just appreciate, wow, this natural health, these natural approaches to mental and physical health are actually higher benefit and lower risk than most of the conventional medical recommendations for chronic illness, we realize that, wow, that's a better value. And it becomes a first opportunity, not like this fallback thing. Oh, the drugs didn't work, let me try out this sauna thing, or this detox, or this changing my diet. It becomes a first approach. And so yeah, with this, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we do here. But first, I wanted to start out with what happened to you. So I had the pleasure of you being a guest at my apartment when I was in Dallas, and you were visiting for the day, and I wanted you to try out our sauna. And so I had my super sauna set up. That's actually behind me here. I don't know if you can see below, but there's actually a 4-panel and a 3-panel. So this is the most stimulating sauna experience in the world on the market. It's definitely the most intense, stimulating sauna space experience we can offer. And I figured, well, you're a healthy guy, you're a PJ, you can handle anything, and you only had one day there, so I didn't think too much about it. I just kind of threw you in there into our most intense stimulating sauna, and I said, okay, rotate every couple minutes and come out in 15 minutes, and then tell me how it was. So I don't think you've had much experience before doing saunas, right? Before this?
Very, very, very little. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you came over, kind of threw you to the wolves, put you in the super powered super sauna, and you did a full session. You took a shower afterwards. Tell me about what'd you think? What was the experience like?
Well, let me clear this up first. I'm not anti-medication, anti-drug at all. I was a paramedic.
Mhm.
I've seen drugs save people's lives on and off the battlefield. Like, there's sometimes that only thing that's going to save this person's life is this drug,
Mhm.
right? Like, that's it. Some people that are on certain medications and like they might not be here if it wasn't for that. Definitely. But I can't agree with you more that for most chronic illnesses, the approach should be, let's get everything in your body equalized
Mhm.
to homeostasis, and then if we need to supplement with something, let's do that, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
And,
start out with the physical and then work on the other stuff, but
yeah,
cleanse, our technology, this tool that we have, our system, that's our body and our mind and our heart and everything. It's perfect. It actually works perfectly. It just things get in there, they get stuck and get in the way, just like a car. And
yeah,
so just putting higher octane fuel in is not enough. We got to rehabilitate the temple to make things work right.
yeah, yeah. So back to your question, I was I was having a pretty hard time at that stage in my life. Probably, not
Hmm.
just a lot of my perspective was being challenged on am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good example? Am I being a good husband? And is all this stuff, and like progressively that was really changing to like, no, you're not like being a good husband. You're not being a good father. You're not, and my thoughts,
Mm.
and so obviously I'm angry, and my whole house of cards starts falling down around this, these thoughts of like, just, I'm not meeting expectation. I'm failing. And, it's a time where it's difficult. My wife and the kids went up to see her mom for a couple of weeks, which was planned, but it also, like, it was good for me at that point in time because I really needed to, get myself situated before I made anything else worse. So it was a good time that I came up to see you and Mila and spent some time with y'all, and you guys put me through this. Um, I'm gonna call it a ritual, even though it's not, but it was for me,
Yeah.
and one of the small pieces of that was that sauna there right behind you, and
Hmm.
man, I, I'm not a I'm not well versed on the light spectrum portion of the sauna. Um, you're right that specific machine right there behind you it has the capability to be pretty intense, and
Yeah.
and sitting in there with that, I, I was really blown away with how hot it can get, you know. And I think you just told me today that I could have turned it down. I didn't I didn't know that at the
Well,
time. but but if the capability is there for that thing to get that intense, with the light, it
hmm.
was like I could almost feel this just stress just kind of like leaking out, you know, like with the sweat, it was just like I just felt stronger the longer that I was in there, even though for me personally it was difficult. You know, it was difficult to sit in there. It was 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, I think it's like 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. But you know, you do something that is uncomfortable, and it makes you appreciate everything that is comfortable. You know, it makes you appreciate things that feel good even better because you experienced something that was uncomfortable for a period of time. You know,
Yeah.
which
It's
is exactly the
yeah.
opposite of what all these SSRI drugs do. You know, they take you to mediocre, to the middle. You know, and and I felt with the intensity of the sauna, I felt like it gave me more perspective. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? So yeah, it was difficult for me, but it was like it felt so good, and then to know that the spectrum of light is helping to heal me inside on top of the rest of it was, I mean,
Yeah, it's a part of our biology that we're designed to get intermittent stress. So like some short-term stress, and people understand that with exercise, and that also applies to so many other things. Our ancestors were experiencing drastic temperature changes basically every day. They didn't have any heating or air conditioning, and and part of that was eventually an ancestral understanding of the benefits of heat. So heat purifies the body and it reoptimizes cellular function. So sauna use in general is now widely supported in the research, you know, with long-term human studies of reducing your risk of dying of all things, basically. And a big part of that is cleansing the poisons out of the body and fixing all the systems that, you know, re-optimize all the function from the cells all the way up to the organs. And so our ancestors understood that some discomfort is applied in an hormetic stress principle concept. So stress applied, that's natural stress for a limited period of time, has incredible benefit. And when you understand that, it kind of gives a different perspective to the sauna experience. It's not stressful in a negative way. It's stressful in a positive way. But at the same time, like, it's not the path of healing naturally is not like this. It's not an uneventful journey. There's definitely road bumps that come up in the way, but it's also not necessarily a hard journey. It's, for me, maybe you can speak differently to your experience, but for me in my healing, and insomnia was one of my problems actually, like 10 or 12 years ago, was that it was more about letting go of the poisons, letting go of the fixations and the stories I was telling myself, and the mind loops and the perspectives that I had. It was more about letting go than holding on to or doing anything. It was more like you just described, that the experience you get in a sauna session, and particularly what we do with the light, it just gets you to melt and like release and relax. And a big part of that is the light therapy itself. So our saunas are powered by this big incandescent bulb. So it's a spectrum of light that heats you, and it stimulates these light therapy cellular responses in the body, and they promote healing and anti-aging and regeneration. But particularly when we're talking about your brain and your nervous system, it promotes relaxation. It brings you back to yourself. It relaxes those cells in the nervous system in the brain, and that also relaxes the mind in terms of like thinking about stuff and being anxious or irritated or angry or frustrated. Relaxing the nervous system and using light therapy in saunas, really one of the most effective things out there. Think about what we're doing here at Sauna Space is a near infrared spectrum. So it's the high energy end of infrared. That's the experience you get with the sun. So when you're out in the sun, it's mostly near infrared that you're absorbing, and the sun is so relaxing, it's so calming, it's nourishing all life on Earth. Well, it turns out that we need light. We're actually beings of light, and we don't get this anymore because we're all clothed and we're all indoors, or we got our hats on and stuff. So we're missing this nourishing component that it's not just healing us in some kind of cellular way. It relaxes our mind and corrects misalignments and discongruities in our nervous system, and that results in feeling more centered, feeling more grounded, feeling more getting back to the getting away from the doing and being more in the being space, being in sort of the awareness of who you are, instead of being stuck in your body and what's happening tomorrow or what you did yesterday. So yeah, I wanted to just show you actually real quick. I think I can pop this off the camera. So I just wanted to show, yeah, we're going to get to the nonprofit here in a second. I just want to show everybody what Anthony used and a couple other things here. So let me pop this thing off. So this is what Anthony used. So it's the super sauna. So it's got 7 bulbs. It's got 3 on the bottom, and the standard sauna has 4 on the top. And it's actually, what you used, Anthony, was the Faraday sauna. So that's what this other one is actually. Let me show you that over here. So this is our standard light panel setup where there's 4 bulbs, and it comes with this silver-based liner that you can see right here. It's 35% silver, and you actually sat in that, Anthony, and that blocks out the EMFs that are in the environment, and that's also something that's really relaxing. We're not designed to get all this man-made EMF. It basically stresses us out. It causes oxidative stress. It's associated with a lot of issues really nowadays. And so what we've been doing here at Sauna Space is designing a perfect mental and physical relaxation environment, like a maximal healing environment. When you step into a Faraday sauna, however many bulbs it has, it feels really quiet to the senses. It's really a pre-technology space. And all that, it's all an attempt to just get you back to yourself. Because when you get the body back to itself, it knows how to operate perfectly. It knows how to detox and fix itself and also work through its issues. And so sauna also helps with sleep. When you use sauna a lot, and let me show you here real quick before I talk to you about sleep. So this is the panel that's in the sauna. This is our tungsten panel. It comes in a bulb version too. And also, Anthony, I think you've tried this. This is our little photon infrared therapy light, and you can use this for spot relief in spot areas on the body, and you can kind of have it sitting next to you when you work at the computer or when you're indoors for technology fatigue, so like blue light stress and stuff like that. But anyway, so one of the beautiful things about frequent sauna use, is it improves your sleep. It helps you go to bed better. It improves your sleep cycle, and your sleeping is when you're doing actually most of your healing, and a lot of it really is there's physiological, like cellular healing going on, but there's a lot of mental and mind healing that's going on. When you're dreaming, that's when you're in sort of the land of the subconscious, and your subconscious is trying to work out things and process experiences that it has, and the more we align our conscious mind with our subconscious, the more we're aligned totally, and the more we're optimally functioning in terms of mind and body. So all of this is designed, whether it's our full body saunas or our portable panels like the Photon, it's all designed to bring you back to yourself and bring you back to the oneness of just being there and not having all of this externality, that we're focused on all nowadays. And a big advantage of that, what we do here, is the light. The light is calming. The light makes you feel good. It's like when people get in the sauna, our sauna, they don't know like exactly why, but you feel good. You don't get out of the sauna feeling. In your case, you took the most intense experience we have. Usually, by the way, people use the regular sauna with 4 bulbs for months or maybe even years before they amp it up to the 7 bulbs. So that what you have is a very uniquely and stimulating experience in the beginning. But all that to say that the the light is very energizing and very rejuvenating. So usually when you get out, you really you feel very zen. You feel in a flow state, and your mind feels really clear. If you do a sauna in the morning, your brain works better all day long, not just for like doing things and being efficient, but like clarity and decision making and recall and stuff like that. And all that makes you feel better. It makes your mood better. It makes you more positive and more happy. And that's what, that's what we all want. We all want to be happy. So yeah, so that's kind of the sauna space stuff. I wanted to go back to you. You mentioned your nonprofit before. I wanted to give you some time to talk about like this super cool nonprofit. I know it has to do with this amazing plane you have behind you, and like how you live nowadays, which is really unique. I've never met anybody who's has quite a house like what you have. But tell us about your nonprofit. But tell us also like what your motivation was. Like, why did you start it, and what it is, and what you're doing.
Yeah. So when I got out of the Air Force, started working for my wife's family. Part of that deal was to move into where I live now, this hangar house, and we ended up buying the house from them. But after living here for a couple of months, my wife's uncle was like, "Dude, you should start flying." And he was a pilot, and my dad growing up was a pilot, and I was like, "Man, I don't make enough money to fly." And he's like, "Yeah, you do." And I was like, I don't know. I think I was making about $45,000 a year at the time, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll figure it out, you know." So we ended up buying an airplane together, a 172, and I get my 18 months to get my pilot license, which is a really long time. Most people can do it in 3 to 5 months, 6 months if you're really taking your time. So I did mine in 18 months, and flying just it gave me something to occupy that mental emptiness. You know, it gave me something to struggle with, something to learn about, and and a new skill. So when I got done with my pilot's license and started realizing like what aviation really opened for me, I started thinking, wow, there's probably tons of vets out there that could benefit from this. I started looking into the GI Bill and stuff, and how that works. And the GI Bill doesn't really pay for you to get your private pilot's license, but they'll pay for everything after that, unless you're going to a 4-year degree program, and you have to get a commercial pilot rating and a bachelor's degree. And for me, 10 years in the military and getting out of life and kids and a job, like I can't go to school full time. Also, I mean, I could have, but it would have been a struggle for me. So, I dillied around with trying to make this nonprofit work for a couple of years and couldn't get anything off the ground. And a really good friend, Nick Sutley, I think might be watching live.
Yeah, I think I saw him earlier.
Yeah, we were stationed together in Alaska. We went to Intel school together, and he reached out to me kind of out of the blue, and we hadn't talked in a decade maybe, and he was like, "Hey, I want to come down and see you." And I was like, "Okay." So he came down, and we're sitting here in the living room at the house, and he's like, "I want to start a nonprofit." And I'm like, "Dude, I've got an idea, but I have no idea how to do it." And he's like, "Well, I know how to do it. I just can't come up with a good idea." So at that time, the program was born, which morphed into Veteran Aviator. And now we've got 6 people in the program. Our first candidate to actually started flying this week. There's a lot of, when you're learning to fly, there's a lot that comes before you actually start flying. So, it's working, and we have a dream team of people put together. And
So hang on. So the name of your nonprofit is Veteran Aviators.
Yep. Yep, veteran aviator. And yeah, I guess I kind of glazed over all the important bits, right?
Well, the name is Veteran Aviators, and exactly what you do is because of the limitation of the GI Bill or the constrictions of that, you've started this nonprofit to help veterans get a private pilot license.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we do is provide essential scholarship money for them to do it. And we arrange all the training. We try to use our organization to get discounts and stuff. And we basically cover everything from want to be a pilot to becoming a pilot. And then after that, they'll have a private pilot's license so they can use their GI Bill to go further into commercial aviation if that's something that they desire to do. We're indifferent about whether somebody wants to use it as a career because I love flying and I have no desire to fly professionally. I like my hobby and I don't want it to turn into work, you know? So for us, it's like we just want to give the gift maybe to a veteran, to somebody that sacrificed something for this country, just to give them to that and not expect anything back, not expect them to turn it into a job or to whatever. The only thing we want, go fly. Love to see you around our group events, hanging out, you know. So that's
It's such a beautiful gift. It's there's something about flying, you know, that's so free, and it's so like when you took me up there and we're just circling around kind of your house and that area, it just the way everything looks, it's all so fascinating, and the fact that if you could tell us a little bit, and actually, well, I'll ask you to show us in a minute, but do you just, it's like, for you, it's like almost like driving a car. You just go out and you take off. It's not, it doesn't involve all this stuff I have in my mind that you have to have all this bureaucracy and paperwork and approvals and stuff like that. And you don't, you just go out and you get up there and there's this, it's just so special. It's so awesome. It's so humbling and also so empowering, you know, to see all that and be up there and have that experience. And I wasn't even flying, you know, I was just riding.
you flew for a little bit.
Yeah,
You did great too.
we did for sure. Yeah. So before,
you know,
go ahead.
It's literally and figuratively, but a different perspective on Earth, you know. And I had the pleasure of taking a lot of people up in an airplane for the first time and quite a few people in a small airplane for the first time. And the look that you get, it's like there's not words for it. That when somebody sees the world from that perspective and realizes how much freedom you really have. I mean, it's raining and the weather's not great outside now, but I could push the airplane outside right now and take off and fly to Colorado and not talk to anybody if I didn't want to. You know, that's not the case for certain airports, but here where we are, it's, you don't even need a radio. You know, I don't have to ask anybody's permission. I just, my wife would get mad if I didn't talk to her about it before I left, but
Yeah, wow, it's so special what you're doing, that you're filling in this gap and giving the whoever joins us this opportunity to like just have the experience of flying, much less, you know, whether they want to pursue that professionally or not. Like,
yeah.
I for one am just honored to know you and to have been taken by you yourself up there in the plane, and the doors were shaking and everything was rattling and there's no air conditioning inside, and it was one of the most thrilling experiences I've had in my whole life. Honestly, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
She's a little girl, so
yeah, wow. So yeah, but before we go on, like, so your nonprofit's named Veteran Aviators. If Veteran Aviator, if we want to support you or we want to be a part of this, like, how do we do that?
yeah. So you could go on to the website, is veteranaviator.com, or you can look on Instagram also as at Veteran Aviator on Instagram. The links will be on how you guys could give and support the program. I'll say that there's 4 of us that run the program. We are all veterans, and nobody makes a dime off of this. The payment that we give is job satisfaction, and it actually costs each one of us quite a bit at this point to keep it going. But everything that is given goes directly to put a veteran in a cockpit to be flying. So it costs about $10,000 to $12,000 to put a guy through private pilot training from start to finish, depending on where they're at in the country. But it's definitely not cheap. It's not as expensive as some people think it is, but it's definitely not cheap. And every dollar that we have is hard earned. It's days of phone calls and putting fundraisers together, and we've got a big fundraiser tomorrow that we've been working on, and guys coming in from all over the country to help us with it. So yeah, I mean, anything that that wants to give to us, I just want everyone to know that it does go straight to the cause. None of us take any we don't take any salary or pay for anything that we do.
Yeah, wow, that's a real nonprofit. No overhead, just a bunch of guys doing what they're passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll turn into something that where there needs to be somebody on staff to make it happen. If we can get to the point where we're putting 20 or 30 guys through a year, that would be awesome. And eventually our real goal is to have a place out in the country with a runway and some cabins where veterans can bring their families and either fly out there or drive out there and use the airplanes and just have a relaxing week with their family.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get there. But you've already started, so you already have your first guy is going to graduate at some point soon. He just started, right?
Yeah, he'll finish soon. He's a hard charger, which is what we want. But
amazing.
He's a Marine, so you just point at stuff and he takes it out.
Cool. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. So let's wrap up now. I'm sure everybody can see that you have this like plane behind you that's like so amazing. So you're in the hangar right now, right? Like
yep.
So I was wondering if you could maybe pick the camera up and show us like show us like the hangar and the plane and like this crazy lifestyle you have where your parking garage actually has a plane in it.
Yeah, so what we're in right now is a 75 by 60 metal building.
Mm-hmm.
Our house takes up the front third of that, so it's 2-story. Just living, you live it just like you live in a regular house, I guess. Just a little bit non-standard. So we've got about 3,000 square feet that overlooks into the hangar area. So if you're sitting there eating dinner or hanging out in the loft, is all these windows lead right out to the airplane. So we've got, this is a Cessna 180 that we got as a project and finished it about a year ago. But big tires and made for landing in the backcountry. We go fly down, land on the beach or on the riverbanks, go fishing or just hanging out. But we kind of completely redid the whole interior, so it's basically brand new. Everything that matters, but it's a 1958 model airplane. But
wow, so it's a 1958 model, so it's over 80 years old now.
Let's see.
And so you're not just a pilot, you actually fix planes and you rehabilitate planes.
Yeah, so this one we got as a project, and the wings were off, all the control surfaces were off. So I worked with a mechanic here locally at the airfield, and we took about 4 years to put it back together with all new components underneath. So we do that, and then we have a couple other projects that have been donated that we're working on finishing.
Wow.
That's with the program, so we'll finish that airplane and eventually raffle it off. We are raffling an airplane right now as a 1945 a rocket champ.
For
So if you
the
go,
nonprofit?
if you go to rafflecreator.com, you can find that on there. Um,
Wow.
so
Cool.
yeah, for $50, you could win yourself an airplane.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to get on there and put my ticket in. Wow,
Yeah,
that's really incredible.
of it, and then big hangar door, so this hydraulic door opens up and the runway's 60 feet down the concrete, and yeah, man, you just feel like flying and the weather's good and off you go.
Wow, it's like, you you may not look at yourself this way, but a lot of people admire the not just who you are, Anthony, but the life you've built. Like, it's pretty cool, man. It's a dream life to, in a way, that be able to be there with your family and walk out your back door, get in a plane and fly away wherever you want. It's all in your house. I mean, you don't even have your car in your garage because you have your plane in the garage. It's really,
Yeah, man,
really impressive, man. Like, give yourself a pat on the back. You've
it's
made
not
it.
lost on me, man. I wake up every day just kind of really unsure about how I ended up here. Just had a lot of blessings in my life, and where we're at right now is definitely one of them.
You were meant to be there, and this is all meant to happen for a reason. And you also, I mean, we and I are so grateful to you for your continued work and your continued service. It's not just what you did when you were in the active service, but now you're taking all this time and considerable time and resource investment with no monetary compensation to help others, to lift other people up in a really unique way, helping people like get their pilot license. It's really admirable. It takes a lot of work. I know I've been involved in some things and wow, just even starting your own nonprofit and then figuring all that stuff out and then getting all that together. It's a huge lift, and you and your team of veteran aviators are doing that. So thank you.
Oh man, it's totally our pleasure. We get job satisfaction from it for sure. On Monday when our candidate flew his first lesson, we were all just like, cheering. We had a call and we're all like being goons because it's like, man, it worked. We did it. Like we got one guy flying, and we're like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's the start of many. That was the hardest part, definitely. Was the first part.
Yeah, we know that it'll work, and now it's just do it again and again and again.
Well, everybody who wants to support you, it's again veteranaviator.com, or you can just probably search online Veteran Aviator. They're based in Texas, but I guess you're serving veterans around the country.
We are, yeah. We have veterans in 5 states, so 5 of the 6 people in the program so far represented in 5 states. So
beautiful. And Anthony, for those of you who joined later, this is Anthony Robinson. He's a former PJ. He runs a nonprofit called Veteran Aviator that helps to finance and train veterans to get their private pilot's license. And we just had an amazing talk today about so many things. I think we did covered a lot of interesting topics, and and I wanted to thank you, Anthony, for coming on, taking so much time to be here, and also your willingness to be vulnerable and share, some of your experiences in the past and the journey you've gone through post service to get to where you are today. And I'm actually so grateful that I thought it would be perfect for me to gift you one of these. So this is our photon therapy light. And I think you saw one when you visited us. Let me see if I
Yeah,
pull it.
you're awesome.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you one of these, Anthony, because I want you to, just as a demonstration of how much I love you, and not just for taking the time today, but because you really are. You're doing so many good things. A lot of people just get out there and they get stuck in the slog of life and just providing and living and you for you that wasn't good enough. You wanted to help others, and particularly the veterans who I think are very much underserved, and we do too. So I really commend you, and I'm grateful for you for having the courage and also the tenacity to like actually take an idea and get it to the point where it's now working, and you're training your first pilot. It's amazing. So I'm gifting you one of these photon therapy lights, so you can, when you get busy and you're trying to relax and chill, you'll just use this while you're reading, while you're at home, while you're working at the computer, and for any kind of aches and pains you have on the body, you can use that as a spot, and you can also just use it like a campfire, just chilling next to you, whether it's after dark or during the day. This spectrum brings the outdoor light of nature indoors, the light of the sun that is healthy and makes us feel good and nourishes us. So I wanted to give that to you in honor of everything you've been doing and who you are.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Those things that light is so cool. It's cool when you guys have it, how everybody just congregates around it like a campfire, wherever you put it.
Yeah, it really is. It does attract people, and people are like, "What is that?" And then usually when you're sitting with someone, they start inching closer
Yeah,
to you slowly. What are
I
you
want to see
doing? Well,
that.
it's just the light. It's the light. Yeah,
Yeah,
it really does feel good. So,
that's
um,
awesome. Brian, I wanted to publicly say thanks to you and to Mila both for um, helping me and seeing me and my struggles and like getting involved. Um, that's the kind of thing that it's going to take a lot of times for people to get the healing that they need. It's sometimes people may not have the strength to reach out and ask for that help themselves, but you guys, you and Mila were definitely um, leaning forward on that with your eye open,
yeah,
and you guys were instrumental in redirecting me and starting my path to being a better version of me and importantly like appreciating myself.
mm,
uh, so I want to say thank you to you
thank
and
you.
to Mila.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's here too, running the camera. So thank you. Yeah, you're not alone, Anthony. Mm, You're loved. You are loved. We are all loved. We're all perfect. We
Mm-hmm.
forget. We get locked up. We get caught up in things in life, and we forget that. Yeah, none of us are alone. And it takes a lot of courage to reach out and extend your hand to someone and help them instead of just going along your way. And it takes probably even more courage to say, "Hey, I could really use a helping hand." So, um, thank you for being yourself and for taking the steps that you have. I think what you've been doing in the last year and has been amazing, and really an amazing, in some ways, an example for me too. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
man, we all struggle sometimes, and you definitely want to have the right people in your life to bring it to your attention when you're struggling a little bit too much.
Yeah, and your friend Nick says, "I love you, Anthony. Thanks for being my best friend."
Nick is the man. Nick is the reason, and like I ended up getting to talk with you today, and I talking with a lot of people because I'm kind of the pilot portion of the program, which is, I guess, the shiny parts. But this whole thing would not have happened if it wasn't for Nick. And then Nick brought in Mike and the other Mike, which we call Mexican Thunder. He brought this team together, and without Nick, without any of the guys, but especially Nick, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. So, I do get the spotlight shine in my face sometimes. I'm not the guy that made it happen. It would work without me. So
yeah. Well, thank you, Anthony, and also to Nick and everybody else on Veteran Aviator. So this is everybody. This is it. We just had an amazing talk with Anthony Robinson of Veteran Aviator, a former PJ, and now a pilot training extraordinaire, and he has his own nonprofit. If you want to support him, he's on veteranaviator.com, and that's Nick at _VetAV is his colleague, and this is Anthony, or this is vet pilot _. What's your handle that we can find?
Man, don't even worry about mine. Follow Nick at _VetAv or Veteran Aviator.
Cool,
I'm terrible with social media, so please don't follow me. If you send me a message, I don't know how to check them, so please don't be upset if I don't get back to you.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I think it's been great for everybody, and such an honor to have you on and talk about all these things on today, Veterans Day, where we're here to shine a light on them, and we're all very grateful for you and all the veterans out there. And once again, honored to have you here on the show today.
Man, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much, and to everybody else, I want to say, as a veteran, I will speak for the rest of them. We're very blessed to have a public that supports us. It hasn't always been the case, and so it is definitely appreciated now more than ever.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, brother, enjoy your day. Thanks again for taking the time.
All right, buddy, love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.